depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to look at Venusaur VMAX. Now, we looked at Blastoise just a little while ago, but we are getting Venusaur as well, and this isn't a big surprise. We knew that Japan was getting a Venusaur VMAX deck, but now we've seen it. Of course, what is particularly interesting about Venusaur, we've already had Venusaur V. That already came around in Champion's Path. So now we're getting a new Venusaur V, and we're getting a VMAX to evolve from either of them. Now, starting off with Venusaur V, what we've got here is 220 HP, which is the same as the other one, and incidentally, there's no way to do this without just comparing both the Venusaur V side by side. We're going to be choosing one to evolve into the VMAX. It's pretty important. We've got a retreat cost of 3, which is the same as the other one. It's the worst retreat cost in the game, boo hiss, etc. We've got a weakness to fire, which is not great. Welder decks are running around everywhere at the moment. Center Scorch decks are big right now. Even Mewtwo and Mew decks, a lot of them use Welder, and if they're using Welder, they're going to use Reshiram and Charizard, and it's not a good time to be weak to fire. Fire is really relevant right now, quite frankly. It's really quite relevant. And being a grass Pokemon, you are hitting Colossal VMAX for weakness. No, it's not out yet, but it will be out for, well, it is in Japan. For us, it's going to be out in Vivid Voltage, and all the signs are that it's going to be a very good deck that sees a fair bit of representation. It also means you can accelerate energy using Rillaboom, which is quite nice, and it means you're going to be able to use Zarude V, and that lets you attach 2 energy, but also heal up completely anyone to whom you attached energy, very much like the old Mega Sceptile. So, yeah, I am expecting grass decks to be a lot better moving forward. But what does it do? Well, the first attack, 1 grass, 1 colorless energy, 50 damage, heal 30 from this Pokemon. Our translation, I should mention, comes from the lovely Antoine Boulet, as I'm sure a bunch of you probably guessed. And I don't mind this. It's fine, but it's not particularly amazing. A single energy attack would be nice. It would be a good option turn 1 going second. As it is, I suppose if you hit a turn 1 turbo patch, this would work. But the reality is neither Zarude nor Rillaboom are going to be up and rolling fast enough to make this a turn 1 attack. And honestly, 50 is just a bit low, and healing 30 is fine. But we've lost Life Forest Prism Star, and we've lost Shaman from Lost Thunder to the rotation. And if we were going to do some kind of gigantic healing deck, that would be the way to do it. Plus, of course, it's worth pointing out that as well as being one-hit KO'd by Fire Stuff, you should be one-hit KO'd by Eternatus and Zacian. So actually, no, I'm not loving this much at all. As for the second attack, free energy, 190 damage, and you do 30 to yourself. Honestly, this is not as good as Dhelmise V. If you want to get a Pokemon V and whack free grass energy on it, use Dhelmise. Because for the exact same attack cost, Dhelmise V does 200 damage, and you can't use it next turn, but there's a million Pokemon like Zacian who you can't use the attack next turn, and that doesn't really matter. So I'm not seeing much of a reason to play this. If we take this Venusaur on its own in a vacuum, I don't particularly like it. I honestly don't see why we'd play it over Dhelmise V. I think Dhelmise V is significantly better. Now, if we really want to play a Venusaur VMAX deck, then we need to play Venusaur V, and if we put these side by side, honestly, it all depends on whether you can attach 1 more energy. Because the Venusaur V that came out in Champion's Path, if you add a 3rd energy to the first attack, you do 80 plus sleep plus poison, which is way better than 50 and healing 30. And if you add an extra energy to the second attack, you go from 190 and 30 to yourself to just 220. So the attacks are more expensive. I admit that. I get that. I acknowledge it. But the fact of the matter is, they are just better attacks. And honestly, I would rather play the Venusaur V from Champion's Path. I think sometimes you're not going to have the energy, but remember we might be using Rillaboom and we might be using Zarude. So actually getting the energy on Venusaur might not be the most difficult thing ever, and if you're able to get the energy on, I like the other Venusaur more. But what about Venusaur VMAX? That is, of course, the main event, shall we say, today. Well, Venusaur VMAX, I like this one a lot more. You go up to 330 HP, which is almost the highest we've seen. We've seen a couple of 340, but this is still gigantic. Your retreat cost goes up to 4, which means you can use buff padding to get an extra 50 HP, which could be potentially huge, putting you up to 380, which is gigantic. Same bad weakness kind of sucks, but you've still got the same tricks by virtue of being a grass Pokemon. But the attacks are what makes this better. 2 colorless energy, this attack does 30 damage for each grass energy attached to all of your Pokemon. Now, it is worth noting that this attack can be used for a triple acceleration energy, but it's also worth noting that that completely misses the point. The whole point of this is that you flood your deck with grass energy and do lots of damage based on it. This should be very reminiscent of Darkrai. I mean, we've seen this attack on a bunch of Pokemon in the past, but the Darkrai EX from Breakpoint, which for 2 energy did 20 damage plus 20 more for each darkness energy on all of your Pokemon. Well, this is like that. Or I suppose more recently we could look at Boltund V, came around in Rebel Clash, and for 2 energy it does 10 damage. Plus 30 more for each lightning energy attached to all of your Pokemon. And this might give up an extra prize, but it does have 130 HP more, or maybe 180 more. It doesn't have the 10 base, weirdly. But even so, I like this more than I like Boltund, if you can get the energy out. Because the thing about Boltund is we can use it with stuff like Pikachu and Zekrom, and things like Tapu Koko Prism Star, and we can get a bunch of energy out. So how's Venusaur rolling? And the answer is not too bad. Actually, I should mention while we're here, it's Shaymin Prism Star. Like, weirdly, creepily similar to Shaymin Prism Star. As in, it's got the same attack, except it's colorless energy, and Shaymin worked with any basic energy. This just works with grass, but this is weirdly, creepily similar to Shaymin Prism Star, which has not rotated. That is very important to point out. Shaymin Prism Star is still in the format, so if you're going to be playing a Venusaur VMAX deck, as I might suggest is going to be a fun idea, you have got to have one Shaymin in there. You've just got to. A single prizer with the same attack as your main attacker that gives up 3 prizes? Yes. And the fact of the matter is, we've been talking energy acceleration a lot this video. Each Rillaboom, and I know Rillaboom's a stage 2, but each Rillaboom gets an extra 2 energy out per turn, which is an extra 60 per turn. Don't forget, we've got Zarude that when it attacks, like I say, does 100 damage, and you can attach 2 energy, and whoever you attach them to gets healed up completely. So if your opponent hits but doesn't one-hit KO Venusaur, and outside of a fire deck, it is actually going to be very difficult to one-hit KO a Venusaur VMAX, and then Zarude comes in and heals you up completely while accelerating energy. Then you've got Turbo Patch, and even after you VMAX your Venusaur, you can still Turbo Patch onto any other basic non-GX Pokemon on your bench, or in your active if Venusaur's not in the active. You see where I'm going with this? There are ways to get the energy out, and I'm kind of digging it. Of course, one thing that would be very fun, and I don't think this is actually going to work, let's be clear. Jirachi Amazing Rare. For 1 Psychic, 1 Fighting, 1 Metal, you get to search your deck for 7 basic energy and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. But Venusaur only works with grass energy, and this requires 3 energy, none of which are grass, so let's not get too over the top. Worth pointing out that Aurora energy will count here, so that's quite nice. And there is that Aroma Grass energy that will make the Pokemon, or the grass Pokemon it is attached to, immune to special conditions, which is nice. But we're mainly going basic grass here. And honestly, if you dedicate it, if you go for it, if you really try, you can make this work. And if you go for a Zarude / Rillaboom / Turbo Patch thing, this could be a very, very powerful deck. And do remember, of course, that when your Venusaur goes down eventually, you're only losing 2 energy, and you can just keep rolling from there. Now, as for the second attack, 4 energy, 210, heal 30. I'm not such a big fan of this attack. I don't think this is particularly great. Bearing in mind, you can do more damage for the same cost on the Venusaur V from Champion's Path. 4 energy 220 rather than 4 energy 210. Now you are healing 30 and that's lovely, but if you're healing in a grass deck, I want to play Zarude to heal up completely. So I'm not necessarily in love with that. And I'm not convinced this is a particularly good attack. Because the other thing is, you really want to hit 220. 220 is the point at which you are KOing the majority of Pokemon Vs. Although do remember that Zacian has a resistance, so you're only actually hitting 180 to a Zacian. You're not even that particularly close. And that's kind of the problem here. I don't think the second attack is good enough. Honestly, the way I see Venusaur VMAX working is you've got kind of a grass box deck with lots of grass Pokemon, and you accelerate a whole bunch of energy here and there, and then this comes in as kind of a sweeper when you've got enough energy on the field. I think for that it could be amazing, but I think that is the way we're playing it. I'm going to go ahead and give this between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. I do think there is a fair bit of potential here, but I do think it might end up being kind of awkward. I'd love to find out though. And I'd love to know what you think about it. So let me know in the comment section, would you? Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.